to honor and recognize those scientific and engineering greats that through history have made enduring contributions to the benefit of mankind. Through their example, motivate and inspire young people to pursue engineering and scientific careers. And hopefully, as we'll see tonight, some of them make similar contributions over the years. And once again, just noteworthy, this is our 40th anniversary. Including tonight, we will have inducted some 72 science and engineering pathfinders historically, beginning in 1982, as I mentioned earlier. The medallion, which you see all around on our slides and of course will be presented tonight, wanted to point out the meaning of it. The intertwined E and S symbolize the relationship between the complementary disciplines of engineering and science. And it's a good reminder to me, through my career at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, there was a constant tension between the lab scientists and engineers and the systems engineers, and I finally figured it out. The scientists were big risk takers, didn't mind failing, but the reward would be great if it could be successful. The main role of systems engineers, and we recognize much more than systems engineers, was to minimize risk. And that created a healthy tension that I hope still goes on today. So there are complementary disciplines, the scientific method and the discipline of engineering design, product development, and technology realization. It's our hope that this then serves as a reminder and an inspiration to young people to pursue the study of the disciplines of science and engineering. And we take that on tomorrow through the lectures for the students who will arrive about 9 o'clock and flood this auditorium, we hope. Finally, I want to recognize a number of proclamations and letters of congratulation coming from the governor of the state of Ohio, the mayor of the city of Dayton, and members of Congress, as well as the mayor of Kokomo, Indiana. So I'd like to introduce Mayor Jeffrey Mims to proclaim Science and Engineering Week in Dayton, Ohio. Mayor Mims.
Good evening. I'll try that again. You know, as a former teacher and a former coach, I say good evening. I'd like to have a nice, loud good evening, Mr. Mims, right back. So let's try that again. Good evening. Good evening. There we go. There we go. I appreciate that. You know, this is great to be here. I was here last week and had the opportunity to talk and interact with some of your leadership here, and it was really a great time. And I was invited to come to this great dinner today and had a chance to interact with some great people at the dinner table this evening as well. So it really is a pleasure to do this proclamation on behalf of the city of Dayton, and it reads as follows. Whereas, you know, I always got to have these whereases in there, okay, with these proclamations. So whereas the Engineering and Science Hall of Fame was founded in 1982 and is headquartered in the city of Dayton, great city of Dayton, Ohio, you know, at the Engineers Club in Dayton. And whereas the Hall of Fame seeks to educate and inform the public about the contributions of men and women from all over the world who have improved the quality of life and the human experience by advancing opportunities in important science areas, technology, with their special achievements. And whereas the Hall of Fame achieves the names of, and recognizes, I should say, and archives the names of those individuals and accomplishments for over 70 previous inductees. And whereas the following three outstanding scientists and engineers are now being inducted. First, posthumously, is Elwood Haynes, 1857 to 1923, for pioneering development of the automobile and stainless steels. Additionally, Nicholas J., I think it's Pagano, I hope I didn't get it incorrect, born January 11th, 1933, for pioneering contributions to science, enabling design and production of advanced composite structures. And the aspect of Dr. Richard E. Smalley, 1943 to 2005, for the discovery and characterization of I think it's fullerenes, I hope I get it right, fullerenes enabling the development of nanotechnology. Now, whereas a public event is to induct the new honorees will occur the evening of November 9th, 2022 at the Engineers Club in Dayton, Ohio, following on the morning on November 10th, 2022 by a gathering of high school students who will be hearing presentations by inductees or their representatives about the impressive accomplishments of each of the engineers and those who were their mentors. Now, therefore, I, Jeffrey J. Mims, Jr., Mayor of the great city of Dayton, Ohio, do hereby proclaim November 9th, 2022 as Engineering and Science Hall of Fame Day here in Dayton, Ohio. So again, thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you very much. I know the mayor had a long night last night, so we do deeply appreciate you joining us tonight, and we know you have an early morning too, so thank you so very much. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Gene Saunders, Deputy District Director and Caseworker for Congressman Michael Turner, to summarize a letter from Congressman Turner.
Good evening. I'm honored to be here on behalf of Congressman Turner, who couldn't be here with us this evening, but he did bring a letter. And I won't read the entire letter because some of it is biographical in nature, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about these wonderful men and their contributions tonight. But I did want to read the beginning and the end of the letter because I think it's very significant. So thank you for inviting me to join you at the Engineers Club of Dayton for the 2022 Engineering and Science Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, started by Edward Andrew Deeds and Charles Kettering. This institution holds an important role in Ohio history. This institution was created to recognize and honor engineers and scientists for their significant contributions to human advancement. It fosters an understanding of scientific ingenuity while encouraging careers in engineering and science. Previous inductees include Orville and Wilbur Wright, Nikola Tesla, and David Packard, in addition to a list of other influential figures in the fields of engineering and science. Today we honor the extraordinary lives and contributions of three individuals, Mr. Elwood Haynes, Dr. Nicholas Pagano, and Dr. Richard Smalley. Through the induction of these three men, we honor their achievements in engineering and science and the ways their work has benefited the rest of society. May their induction into the Engineering and Science Hall of Fame serve as a fitting tribute to the work of these three men and an enduring memory of their remarkable lives. Sincerely, Congressman Michael R. Turner.
We have several other proclamations and letters. I'll briefly refer to them. But knowing that you know many of the whereases and wherefores already, I'll simply summarize. We have the largest proclamation from Governor DeWine. He stayed up all night to get this to us as his first duty, having been reelected last night. He recounts the accomplishments of all three and indicates that The Engineering and Science Hall of Fame is to be commended as the class of 2022, distinguished in every way. We also have a proclamation from the mayor of the city of Kokomo, Indiana, where Elwood Haynes grew up and eventually got discovered by us and nominated this year by Neil Webster, who we'll be hearing from shortly. And the mayor's proclamation recounts the significant aspirations and impacts on the economics and society of the Midwest, particularly Indiana. His inventions range all the way from the first documented invention of a producible automobile, as well as a number of families of stainless steels. Signed, my goodness, I can't read his name, but it's the mayor of Indiana. Charlie, what's his name there? We also have a letter from Rob Portman, the retiring senator from the state of Ohio, that similarly talks about the specific achievements and offers his congratulations to all honorees, indicating his hope that those who hear of these accomplishments may be inspired to make important contributions during their careers. And lastly, we also understand we'll be receiving a letter from Senator Ted Cruz, whose office indicates it's on the way. It's been a busy week, so we understand that as well. So on behalf of all of our elected officials, let's give them a round of applause for being so interested and participating. We'll be making copies of all of these and packaging them for subsequent mailing to each of the recipients, as well as their nominators for your records. Now, let us welcome our MC for the main event this evening, a true American hero, Major General retired Ed Meckenbauer, graduated from the Air Force Academy in 1964. He attended pilot training and served tours in Europe and Southeast Asia, flying the F-4C. In June of 1967, Ed was shot down on his 80th mission over North Vietnam and was a prisoner of war for nearly 6 years. In 1991, he transferred to the Air Force Reserve, where he served with the Joint Logistics Systems Center and the Aeronautical Systems Center and Headquarters Air Force Materiel Command at Wright-Patterson as the mobilization assistant. He probably feels like he was equipment from time to time, to the commander. He's a command pilot with more than 3,700 flying hours, many of them in combat. His final flight as an Air Force C-141 pilot in 2004 was to repatriate the remains of 2 Vietnam and 19 Korea War American killed in action. Please welcome Ed Meckenbauer. I'm finding I need to use the arrow.
Okay, good enough. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and it's been an interesting couple of months since I first learned who the inductees were going to be, and it's a pleasure to learn more about them, and I'm looking forward to even a little bit more tonight. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be asked to serve as Master of Ceremonies for the celebration of science and engineering. Engineering, excellent. We have been assembled here to honor the 1920. Why are you hissing at me? Mr. Matisse? Oh, it's not that kind of engineering? Oh. We're talking about futuristic Buck Rogers kind of stuff, huh? All right. So welcome to the inductees, the representatives, families and colleagues, friends and guests, and everyone here tonight. Thank you for joining us. Ever since humans lived in caves, people have searched for ways to make their lives easier, better, from simple inventions like the wheel and the lever, or lever, depending on how you say it, to the present-day miracles in medicines, manufacturing, and communications. Scientists and engineers have improved human life almost in every imaginable way. The Engineering and Science Hall of Fame seeks to recognize those who have made significant contributions to humanity. For humanities, man lived and developed in a world where progress was marked with eras and time-sensitive things, physical things. Progress was slow and evolutionary. But men like those we recognize here tonight were thinking and living literally outside the proverbial box that characterized their time. Today we live in a world where evolutionary change has become a revolutionary change. Change is no longer merely a physical event, it's electronic. And we are told that freshmen in college are not learning what they will be told is true by the time they're juniors. So regardless of our age, we are tuned in and turned on by this extraordinary phenomena. An example is how many of you have ever gone back to your house to get the cell phone that you forgot, that you didn't even have for the first 40 or 50 years of your life. So we have become part of that as well. Ohio has produced thousands of scientists and pioneers. Ohio has produced thousands of scientists and pioneering engineers over the years, and Dayton has, you're hissing again? Ohio has produced thousands of scientists and pioneering engineers, and Dayton has led the way in the invention and discovery. So it is very fitting that Dayton and the Engineers Club of Dayton be the home of the Engineering and Science Hall of Fame. Tonight we gather here to honor 3 world-class scientists and engineers for their outstanding contributions to human accomplishment in their fields, including one from Ohio, one from Indiana, and one from the Lone Star State of Texas. In diverse fields of aviation, space, and automobile, high-performance materials, science, and product development. They recognized scientific and engineering challenges and created innovative solutions to overcome those problems. The result, we, the country, and yes, the whole world, are better for their efforts. From the jet fighters I flew to your kitchen appliances, stainless steel makes life better. The shafts of my golf clubs are stronger, and the lightweight material makes up so much of the components of airplanes and everything else in this world were made by chemistry. And the Heath kit, the AFM tuner I built at the Air Force Academy in 1960 is laughable compared to what nanotechnology has brought to our world today. Now, in this world where a lot of people are trying to, make everything gender neutral, I want to tell you that science can in fact be male and female. For example, photocopiers. These are female because once turned off, it takes a while to warm them up again. They are an effective reproductive device if the right buttons are pushed, and it can also wreak havoc if the wrong ones are pushed. Tires and rubber, they're male because they go bald easily and often overinflated. Trains, they're definitely male because they always use the same old lines for picking up people. Hammers, definitely a male thing as well because in the last 5,000 years they've hardly changed at all and are occasionally handy to have around. And the last one, the remote control. Now you might think that the remote control is male, but it's female. Consider this. It easily gives a man pleasure. He'd be lost without it. And while he doesn't always know which buttons to push, he just keeps on trying. So there is a human side, a gender side to these things. And now our first inductee, seemingly distant past of automobile and high-performance materials development. Well, Mr. Neil Webster, all right, we got there. Retired manufacturing engineer, nominator, come forward to present Elwood Haynes for pioneering development of the automobile and stainless steels. Sir, you bet.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Neil Webster. I'm a life member of the club here at the Engineers Club of Dayton. And I've been on this committee now for about a year or so. I grew up in Kokomo, Indiana, and I graduated from high school there. We heard about Elwood Haynes throughout our time in school. I was fascinated by this man. I had my parents drive me out to Pumpkin Vine Pike to see where he tested his first automobile. Because of Elwood, I went to Purdue University in metallurgy and worked for 40 years as an engineer. I was late to reading, other than that which was done from my classes. However, I did read what little information was available regarding his accomplishments, especially his work with alloys. And now, in the alloys we now know as stainless steel. Elwood was my childhood hero for several reasons. He was not very good in school, yet he accomplished a great deal. Through determination and hard work, every challenge that confronted him, he would overcome. Of course, we were told Elwood did it all. He invented the automobile, invented stainless steels, invented everything that the new natural gas company needed to move, control, and meter gas. It wasn't that simple, of course, but he did it. Central Indiana discovered a huge gas field in the end of the 1800s, and Elwood was fresh out of school with a chemistry degree, and perhaps the only man in the area qualified to do the work that the gas company needed. This business was new, and everything had to be developed, invented, and implemented to keep the business thriving. He developed the valves, the meters, the regulators, and whatever else they needed. He is the person that figured out how to transport the gas via pipelines, how to compress the gas to maintain line pressure, and how to store gas awaiting use. He was covering the northern half of Indiana on horseback, and he concluded that there had to be a better way to get around and a more reliable and simpler way than a horse. Elwood knew about the gasoline engines, and he started with a clean workbench and fresh ideas to build the first true automobile. There were a couple of people who claimed to be first, but all they'd done is put a motor on an existing buggy. His horseless carriage would evolve into a very successful automotive company that produced fine automobiles over 25 years. His automobile was an amazing breakthrough that led to one of the biggest industries in the world. However, his early work at university and at home, tinkering with alloys of steel to create what we now refer to as stainless, is perhaps the most profound contribution of his career. His original goal was to produce kitchen utensils that didn't have to be cleaned and polished like silver. It went a little further than that. What he contributed to mankind is ever so much more significant. He developed stellite, one of the hardest known materials that dominates tooling of all kinds. Other Haynes alloys are in jet engines, electrical generation equipment, nuclear reactors, aircraft, automobiles, surgical instruments, and the list goes on and on. And if you look at the back of your program, you'll see where Haynes alloys are on Mars. I think he would really enjoy that. This quiet man contributed to establishing Indiana as an industrial center. He led the way for Kokomo to become a thriving automotive manufacturing center. And he began the development of stainless steels that have revolutionized nearly every industry in the world. There are everyday technologies based on the use of Haynes alloys that were science fiction during his lifetime. Yet he led the way towards development of these technologies for the betterment of all mankind. I'm proud to say that I was able to nominate my childhood hero to be inducted into the Engineering and Science Hall of Fame. When we started voting to select inductees from a dozen nominees, I was thrilled to see the reaction of the other board members who were not familiar with Elwood. His name quickly rose to the top of the list of most worthy candidates, and we are gathered here tonight to induct him into the Hall of Fame to join other noteworthy scientists and engineers who have already been recognized. Thank you. Al?
on in.
Good evening. Oh, man. Mr. Mayor, what happened? Well, according to Google, since 1900, about 1.5 billion cars have been produced. Every year, the world produces, on average, about 90 million cars. Elwood Haynes never imagined, after his first successful horseless carriage driven down Pumpkin Vine Pike in Howard County, Indiana, that these numbers would ever grow to this magnitude. A lot of times I sit in his office in the museum in Kokomo and look out his picture window and see all the cars every day go by there. So many. It just would blow his mind to sit in that chair and see all that. We want to thank the City of Kokomo Mayor, Tyler Moore, for proclaiming Wednesday, November 9th, 2022 as Elwood Haynes Day. On behalf of my co-curator, Jill Fortner, the Kokomo Parks Department, the City of Kokomo, the State of Indiana, and of course, Mr. Elwood Haynes, we want to thank Mr. Neil Webster and Mr. Jim Mattis for all their hard work on making this honor and award a reality. We also want to thank the committee members for the award and recognition. Elwood Haynes was a humble Christian man. I know that he would be very emotional and ever thankful for this recognition. Again, thanks to all involved in making this a very special night. Let me leave you with this from Elwood Haynes. This sums up his attitude toward his fellow man. The greatest good is what we do for one another. Thanks again, and enjoy your evening.
And now Dr. Sam Sani, CEO of AdTech Systems Research Incorporated, retired, nominator and research collaborator, will introduce our second inductee, Dr. Nicholas J. Pagano, for pioneering contributions to science enabling the design and production of advanced composite structures.
Namaste. Good evening. My name is Sam Soni, and it is my distinct honor to introduce my friend, mentor, and Hall of Fame inductee, Dr. Nicholas J. Pagano. First of all, I want to thank Hall of Fame Board for accepting my nomination of Dr. Pagano and selecting him as one of the 3 inductees. Next, I want to thank Dr. Pagano for his willingness and support in preparation of his nomination package. I have known Dr. Pagano since August 1978, when I joined the Air Force Materials Lab as a National Research Council Senior Research Associate. He was a leader and a key researcher in the Air Force team devoted to mechanics of composite materials. Now, composites are routinely used in applications where high-strength, lightweight, and many other unique properties are essential, and the contributions made by Dr. Pagano are the basis for much of this success, and also the basis for his Hall of Fame nomination. His research and leadership have resulted in many benefits to humankind, which is the spirit of his Hall of Fame recognition. the induction of Dr. Pagano into the Hall of Fame is very special to me. I started working with him in August 1980, collaborating with him on a global local variational model for predicting interlaminar stresses in composite laminates. This is a typical of many foundational advances Dr. Pagano directed, and in 1982, it was selected as the winner of the Premier Research Award for Air Force Materials Lab, the Charles J. Cleary Award. I am proud and grateful to have been part of his research team. In addition to his numeral formal recognitions, Dr. Pagano has many notable achievements, too many to list, and I would like to mention just a few to illustrate his broad talents and impact. And there are few firsts which I would like to mention here. He was the first to recognize the importance of stacking sequence in composites. And he was the first to develop a closed form solution to predict the response of composites. And he was the first to be promoted as ST grade scientist in Air Force Materials Lab. And he was the first to develop a cooperative research and development agreement in Air Force Materials Lab, which enhanced joint research with commercial partners. And he was the first to develop a cooperative research and development agreement product called Automated System for Composite Analysis for commercialization. And he was the first to win 3 Air Force Materials Lab Cleary Awards. In addition, he received another 5 Cleary nominations. And a few special notes. Dr. Pagano is a music instrumentalist and has volunteered in many nonprofit organizations, such as school, soccer and baseball coach, school, fundraiser, and hospital volunteer. Such selfless services nurture right understanding, correct thinking, and honest approach to life. Dr. Pagano has used all these traits in his glittering success during his professional life. I still remember at his retirement ceremony on April Fool Day 2001, then the Air Force Materials Lab Director, Dr. Vince Russo, he is here and can witness, remarked that Dr. Pagano's caliber is of a Nobel laureate level. He made that comment on April 1st, 2001. And now, after 21 years of Dr. Russo's remarks, certainly in agreement with Dr. Russo's words, Dr. Pagano is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Pagano for his outstanding contributions to mankind through his chosen area of specialization, for his many meaningful roles as a researcher, leader, teacher, mentor, innovator, and now, of course, for his induction into the Engineering and Science Hall of Fame, and as we honor his lifelong excellence. Congratulations to Dr. Pagano. Let's give a big hand.
Well, thank you, Sam. A few days ago, Jim Matisse asked me if I had any role models, and actually, I said no. But I don't have any technical role models, but I have role models who are my parents, and it's a humbling experience to receive this honor. I thank Sam for making that presentation, making me look good. I thank my parents. They're no longer with us, but I remember them, and I think as far as role models, I couldn't have had better parents. Neither one of them went to college. Neither one of them went to high school. But they taught me something that it's driven my life. My father, his motto was, his favorite motto was, there's no such word as can't. There is no such word as can't. My mother, age 45 or so, went to work. She even learned how to drive so that I could go to college. And what they taught me was hard work accomplishes wonders, and dedication brings success. I thank you all for coming. This is an unbelievable honor for me. The other day, well, I'm 89 years old and I live in a senior center. The other day, I couldn't even boil water. I couldn't read the directions. The stove in my room is so complicated. And I said, I'm going to be in the Engineering and Science Hall of Fame. I can't drive a car. They don't let me anymore. The world is a safer place because of that. And I appreciate what Elwood Haynes has done, but I'll never drive another car. All I did was write equations. I wrote one paper with 91 equations in it. And I'm going to present my first paper, which only had 27 equations, tomorrow for the youngsters in step schools. Don't miss it. I won't go over the math because I only have half hour to speak tomorrow, but I'm going to demonstrate the physics with very, very nice pictures Samsoni was able to bring forth clearly. And it took him about 6 tries, but he finally did it. And, well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, General. Thanks, Vince Russo, for showing up and sitting close to me here. Thank you for coming. And God bless you all. Amen.
Since breakfast isn't included in the price you pay to be here today, I'm going to cut the next introducer's introduction a little bit short. Dr. Vincent Russo, retired senior executive from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, has many degrees, some earned and some unearned. I didn't mean unearned, I meant honorary. Honorary degrees. Dr. Russo has a long and very distinguished career at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and I can actually call him a friend for most of that time as well. And of course, he's got a lot of claims to fame. He graduated from the Ohio State University, and he was the captain of his college football team. You could explain that one, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Vince Russo, to introduce our final inductee, Dr. Rick Smalley, for the discovery and characterization of fullerenes and the advocacy for nanotechnology.
Well, thank you, Ed. Good evening, everyone. Well, I'm tremendously honored to have the privilege of introducing the next inductee, Dr. Richard Everett Rick Smalley. Dr. Smalley is being recognized for his role in the design and characterization of fullerenes and for his increasing, unceasing advocacy of nanotechnology and its applications across a broad swath of society. In 1996, Dr. Smalley, then professor at Rice University, together with Dr. Robert Curl, a fellow professor at Rice, and Sir Harold Kroto, a professor at the University of Sussex, were awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the 1985 discovery of Buckminster fullerenes, often referred to as buckyballs. The astonishing discovery of this 60-carbon cage molecule accelerated the establishment of a new field of national and international research called nanotechnology, dealing with matter on a very, very small scale, between 1 and 100 nanometers. I looked for an analogy of how small a nanometer is, and I learned the sheet of paper is 100,000 nanometers thick. Think about that, 100,000 nanometers thick. So you can imagine how small we're talking about. Dr. Smalley was an incredibly influential spokesperson for the entire field of nanotechnology, crisscrossing the country to give speeches, testify before Congress, and meeting with government, academic, and industrial leaders. He is credited with playing a critical role in the establishment of the congressionally supported National Nanotechnology Initiative in 2003. In 2005, the United States Senate passed a resolution crediting him as the father of nanotechnology. Two excerpts from that resolution highlight the broad scope of his scientific impact. First, whereas Dr. Smalley is considered the real civic scientist, one who not only did great science, but used that knowledge and fame to do good, to benefit society, and to try and educate the public. And 2, whereas the legacy of Dr. Smalley will continue to grow as scientists build upon his work and reap the benefits of his discovery. Dr. Smalley's outstanding contributions to the establishment, development, advancement, and improvement of science for the benefit of humanity have resulted in ever-increasing advances in such diverse fields as healthcare to manufacturing. Dr. Smalley was also recognized as an innovator for unique support of historically black colleges and universities. He was the primary advocate and strong supporter for a very large congressionally funded activity with HBCUs called the Minority Leaders Program. This program was continually funded for 10 years with strong bipartisan support in Congress, thanks to Dr. Smalley's efforts. Over the course of the program, there was participation by 768 students, 128 professors, and 28 universities. And incredibly, this program resulted in 165 doctorates, 148 masters, and 375 bachelors, all from HBCUs. Now, a personal note. I met with Rick when he visited the Air Force Materials Laboratory many, many years ago when I was the director there. I was struck by another one of his characteristics. In my mind, Rick Smalley was a patriot. He loved our country and was so proud to be helping the United States Air Force. And finally, a human interest story provided by Wade and Mert Adams, who were close friends and colleagues of Rick's. It seems at dinner, Rick argued with Mert that music was merely a phenomena of physics, a series of Fourier transforms, while Mert argued it was much, much more than that. After dinner, they went to the old Canal Street Tavern, where they heard Mert and Wade's daughter and son-in-law play Somewhere Over the Rainbow on cello and guitar. With maybe a tear in his eyes, Rick told Mert she won the argument, and music does speak to the heart. In closing, I would like to acknowledge the wonderful work done by Doug Hutchins, Bob Rapson, Toby Cordell, Wade Adams, and his wife Mert in preparing and submitting Dr. Smalley's nomination. Representing Dr. Smalley here tonight are his sons Preston and Chad, and Rick's administrative assistant Hazel Cole, and her spouse Carlton. Will Preston and Chad please come forward to accept the medallion?
Howdy. My name is Preston Smalley. I'm Rick's son. This is Chad Smalley. I just wanted to say thank you to Jim for inviting us tonight. This is truly an honor to be here to accept this inauguration on behalf of my father. I wanted to thank Hazel personally for coming. I know that you meant a lot to my father, and it would have meant a lot to have you here in a moment such as this. My father was a great scientist, but he was an even better father. Thank you all for coming tonight. It's a pleasure.
First of all, Dad would be absolutely honored to be in the company of these great men we were honoring here tonight, in addition to the legends that are in the hallway downstairs, Buckminster Fuller being among them, one of his favorites. But it has to be said, Dad was tremendously passionate about science education. That was one of the main things that he was pushing in his later life. And he felt it was absolutely essential. That was one of the prime directives that any scientist or engineer should have, is to encourage young people to get in there and do God's work, as he would say. And he came up with a slogan, "Be a scientist, save the world." And I remember when he came up with that, he ran it by me, and he's like, "What do you think? Is it a little too over the top?" I said, "No, Dad, it's beautiful. It's perfect." So, yeah, he would have loved to have been here, and I wish you all could have met him. He was a great guy. Thank you.
Well, as we near the end of our program tonight, thanks to all of you for being here and participating in our 2022 Hall of Fame induction. To our honorees, their representatives, their nominators, families, friends, associates, a big round of applause for supporting this thing. And now to conclude the evening, I'll ask Jim Matisse, who is the the president of the Engineering and Science Hall of Fame, for closing remarks. And thank you, sir, for being the driving force behind making things like this happen and the recognition of these very deserving people. Mr.
Thank you, Ed, I think. A couple days ago, I sent Ed what I called the final version of the script. And I said, of course, if you want to make any changes in your part, it's up to you. And he says, well, I'll probably have one or two little nits to customize it. So now I know what final isn't. I want to add my congratulations as well to the recipients, our honorees, their representatives, in particular our nominators. If Doug Hutchins would stand, I'd like to acknowledge Doug, because he actually did the hard work of nominating, writing, and all that. Thank you, Doug. Doug's recovering from a minor eye surgery of how many years, Doug? And felt it would be better if Vince Russo did the easy part. I also want to remind all of you that we have the lectures for the students. Here tonight, and the lecturer for tomorrow for Elwood Haynes is Charlie Sponogle. Charlie, would you please be acknowledged? Okay. And as you can see from the slide, Charlie is an example of the career within the industry that Haynes basically founded in terms of the company Haynes International. And we appreciate you coming not only to represent the company, but to indicate the importance of that aspect of his long career. We know Nick. He'll be doing his lecture, presenting his paper tomorrow. And finally, representing and speaking on behalf of Rick Smalley is Dr. Benjamin Maruyama. Benji, are you here? Please stand to be recognized. And as I understand it, he's going to pick up that saying that Rick indicated, be a scientist and save the world. And Benji is a longtime student of and admirer of Rick Smalley, having had his career, I think, greatly influenced as well by him. Well, that concludes our proceeding. Thank you for coming, being so attentive, and have a safe drive home.